Hi everybody. I thought I would turn the camera on and put the pieces together. I made 4 videos 2 days ago while I was up in the mountains that all had kind of a common theme, and they really told a story. There was a story going on behind the scenes that doesn't come through, and I thought I would capture it right now and put it down. So this is really just like a journal entry, so to speak, in my life, nothing more. I was up in the mountains on the Stream of Consciousness hike, and about midday, or high noon or so, I found myself failing. I had failed to find the falls and had sputtered out of the woods, sputtering and exhausted and worn up and beat up and injured, and was at the bottom of this canyon, realizing I had failed to reach my aim. Really quite disappointed in myself, in a lighthearted kind of a way, nothing serious. But also, in a more serious note, I was a little bit upset about the fact that I'm not healthy anymore. And my doctor actually told me, I need to see more doctors. So I got to take care of myself, and it looks like I'm not in good shape anymore. So I was sitting there having my lunch, and basically, thoughts of all this. I made 4 videos, and let me tie those 4 videos together. The first one was something called Death Arrives. And in that one, I was actually sitting there having my lunch, thinking about nourishing my body, feeding and drinking it, and cogitating while I'm doing so, and how this all happens suddenly, death will occur. Not particularly at that instant, but that's the way it tends to often be, where we don't know what's happening. Like my father, living his life, worrying about taxes, taking care of stuff, and suddenly he's dead of a heart attack. It just happened. So that was kind of an observational video, just to, considering how sudden it can be, and without expectation, without knowing it's going to happen necessarily, and while we're busily thinking about, stuff that may seem incidental in the long run. The next one came a little bit later, after I'd packed up my lunch and was climbing back up that mountain, via a farm road, and it was, I was really exhausted, and, partially because I'm not in good shape anymore, and partially because of it was midday and hot, and I was fatigued and and I started putting together photos that started off being photos of dead and dying and decomposing stuff, and then then I laid down a track of words, and it was that's the video, phone call just ahead of death. And what I did was, midway through the thing, I started changing it from photos of browning and dark photos of death and decomposition and rocks and stuff like that, trying to make it more optimistic, because I'm always trying to seek to be an optimistic, upbeat kind of guy. And ended with a shot of the sky and the sun, so I tried to move what was kind of a negative frame of mind out of that into a more positive. The next one was the video stating my resolve at the foot of the Stream of Consciousness waterfall. That one is the result of a video that I haven't yet posted, where I actually made it to the waterfall. That video will get posted later this week, and that'll be on the Softy Papa channel. That will be called the Stream of Consciousness waterfall hike. And it's like a 23-minute video where I just turned the camera on, and despite my exhaustion, after I reached climbing that mountain road, it was after that last video, I had reached the point where I could see the falls again, and I had rested for a little bit, and I had turned on my resolve, and I said, I'm just going to go for it. I set my sights straight for the waterfall and plowed through the forest. No trail, nothing, just plowed right on through the darn forest towards the thing. And I made it, and that video is the result of making it to the falls, standing there, exhausted, beaten, in pain, yet having achieved what I thought was a worthy goal. It was a goal that I had set out for over a year ago. For me, this kind of stuff is worthy goals. There's a lot better things in the world. I wish I was a man who was doing more for others. But these slight little things, if you just indulge me in my little selfish desires, I do like climbing mountains to remote places, and that's a big goal for me. I wish I was better though. But anyway, that was a big thing for me, and I was standing there saying, despite all that afternoon of frustration and thoughts of death and dying and all that kind of stuff, I am going to I can do this, like I did with the falls. I can carry on. I can push through to the top and make and continue despite my age and my infirmities, so slight as they are relative to what the pains that other people really feel. And finally, the last one So it was really, even though that video stating my resolve at the foot of this stream of consciousness falls, even though it has a kind of a negative downer tone, because that was still the theme for the afternoon, the overall atmosphere. I'm again trying to pull up out of that and try to move forward in a more positive way. And finally, the last one, the most sober of them all, 56 million years from now, was after I had, basically kind of tried to recover my senses from the exaltation of reaching the falls and continuing to clamber up out of that valley, and in finding myself in an old cedar forest and thinking about how and watching the decomposition of trees as fallen trees had basically covered in moss and were going away, and realizing that despite each tree's life and living and subsequent decomposition, the forest remained. It's an old theme, right? We all know that. Likewise for each of us. So basically these videos all tell a story of setting out, a failure, of a kind of a desperate uncertainty at the mortality of things and the sensation that is indeed coming, and then a resolution to try and move on past that, a realization of a goal, and a bittersweet sensation of joy that comes despite the pain in the body and the weakening of the soul, and then a more sober final realization that despite these cycles of up and down, it all basically is. It's all dust in the end. Né? So there you go. So there, I'll go ahead and plug those 4 videos in at the end of this, one right after another, and they tell a story of an afternoon, and indeed of a life, of a petty life, of a small person such as myself, trying to get by and trying to rise above the mere simple, selfish and self-absorbed views that my own mind cannot seem to get beyond. I wish I could do more for others and be more for others. There's still some time left. There you go. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye bye. Here's the videos. This apparatus of mine. I feed it. I water the damn thing. It's not. I don't care what the prognosis of my what is it? Salesman, insurance salesman. They have figured it out. They've got the angle, actuarial charts. I think that's what it is. Doesn't care what it is. Feel that time passing. It's going. And I know that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy to say things like this. And it's danger to my own welfare. Who gives a damn? It's a reality of mortality that each of us engenders in our very mortal being. Mortal being even contains our the idea is all wrapped up in it, and never you mind me. I'm just an individual. It's a larger picture that's not important. Just what is, I have no idea. It'll burn up, some entropy down. I must be missing something, clearly. And no, I don't think it's that. Whatever that is you're thinking. I don't think any of us quite got the handle, but and I often am gravely wrong. I'll watch this waterfall for a second, and the life just swooping about life. It wasn't here last year when I walked past here, the same spot. Life, it won't be here next year when I walk past this same spot. If I walk past this same spot, if I ever make it again. The reason being the driving under. Closing in on 50, and even that's not old. Friggin' pisses me off to seemingly wasted so many years, and it seemed like the years been on forever, and then to be squandering yet in idle, being pissed off and upset at myself and self-absorbed and wishing I could be a better one. Stop thinking so much or worrying so much about me, and use the examples of those who are so much better than me. Would that I could emulate the saints, but I imagine that the big difference there is that the saints never wished that they could emulate the saints. I'll just walk on until this road comes to an end. Or shall I? I'm done.
Never mind. That's normal. To cough and sputter at the attempt of trying to say something important is the way life is. No more egregious giving up or self-motivated moping around. The example of the stream of consciousness falls will be mine from now on. I don't give a rat's ass about that. As long as I'm good, as long as I'm minding my principles and not taking advantage of others in the brief time that I have left, 20 years, maybe 10, lucky if I'm lucky, 30 years left, that's okay. I'm witnessing the falls come down right now, and I'm not going to give it up, and I'm not going to be afraid anymore. I'm going to watch these falls. Now, I will cough, I will sputter, I will fail, I will be human, I will falter, but I will power through. I have inner strength that I can muster, and reserves that I can call upon until the end comes. It will diminish, but one part will not diminish. That is the optimistic determination to stride forward.
In 56 million years, every physical trace of you, as well as every idea that you may have found a way to leave printed somewhere in the minds or somehow in the social consciousness of our species, will probably be gone. Yet, somewhere on the earth, forests will exist and look nearly identical to this. Really quite disappointed in myself, in a lighthearted kind of a way, nothing serious. But also, in a more serious note, I was a little bit upset about the fact that I'm not healthy anymore. And my doctor actually told me, I need to see more doctors. So I got to take care of myself, and it looks like I'm not in good shape anymore. So I was sitting there having my lunch, and basically, like my father, living his life, worrying about taxes, taking care of stuff, and suddenly he's dead of a heart attack. It just happened. So that was kind of an observational video, just to, considering how sudden it can be, and without expectation, without knowing it's going to happen necessarily, and while we're busily thinking about stuff that may seem incidental in the long run. The next one came thoughts of all this. I made 4 videos, and let me tie those 4 videos together. The first one was something called Death Arrives. And in that one, I was actually sitting there having my lunch, thinking about nourishing my body, feeding and drinking it, and cogitating while I'm doing so, and how this all happens suddenly, death will occur. Not particularly at that instant, but that's the way it tends to often be, where we don't know what's happening. Hi everybody. I thought I would turn the camera on and put the pieces together. I made 4 videos 2 days ago while I was up in the mountains that all had kind of a common theme, and they really told a story. There was a story going on behind the scenes that doesn't come through, and I thought I would capture it right now and put it down. So this is really just like a journal entry, so to speak, in my life, nothing more. I was up in the mountains on the Stream of Consciousness hike, and about midday or about high noon or so, I found myself failing. I had failed to find the falls and had sputtered out of the woods, sputtering and exhausted and worn out and beat up and injured, and was at the bottom of this canyon, realizing I had failed to reach my